How to spot a fake Rolex, the ultimate guide. Rolex is a luxury watch brand that not all people can afford to own. This is why counterfeit Rolexes are everywhere. Sometimes they are offered at prices that are too good to be true, and gullible consumers fall into the trap of purchasing a Rolex watch. Knowing how to spot a fake Rolex watch will save you from paying for a counterfeit watch. How can you spot a fake when the Rolex watch model seems to be legit? If you know the tips on how to distinguish a real Rolex, then a knockoff will be easy to spot. Commonly counterfeited Rolex models. Fake Rolex watches are such a part of the zeitgeist that it seems like they've been around forever, but they haven't. Fake Rolex watches weren't really a thing until the 1980s. While Rolex has been successful ever since the launch of their Oyster in 1926, they didn't become hot with celebrities until the mid-1960s, and they only started surpassing Omega in sales based on chronometer certifications and leading the luxury watch world around 1970. Counterfeiters tend to fake the most popular Rolex models of their day, primarily because they are liquid, and these are what they fake most accurately. The most common fake Rolex models floating around are the Datejust, the Submariner, the GMT Master T, and the Daytona. Very old, unpopular Rolex models are very unlikely to have been faked, so if you see a tiny 1940s Rolex cocktail watch, it's probably real. However, nowadays there are many fairly convincing fakes of popular Rolex sports models, not to mention Frankenstein watches or Super Frankens, which are fakes hobbled together with some real parts. The good news is, you should usually be able to tell a fake Rolex from a real one, as long as you're careful about it. How to spot a fake Rolex. In 10 telltale signs, it's a fake Rolex watch. A Rolex serial number is always engraved deeply into the metal, while the fake watches have serial numbers that are simply etched with acid. The placement of the serial number is also a sign of whether it is a true Rolex or not. Look for the serial number on the 6 o'clock side where the band connects to the lug. On a new authentic Rolex watch, the serial number is seen on the inner bezel. While you're avoiding eBay Marconis, go ahead and skip eBay Rolex buckles too. Fake Rolex buckles are so common that it's healthy to be skeptical if you get one anywhere except a Rolex service center. Often, gold-plated fake buckles will say Akia Renox, which, humorously enough, means stainless steel. Real gold-plated vintage Rolex buckles do exist, but they say plaque. All real Rolex watch must have a verifiable model number. The model number is seen on the 12 o'clock side of the watch where the band and the lug meet. There should also be an engraving of original Rolex design on top of the model number. You may need to remove the band to see the number. To do this, simply use a paper clip to remove the pin that keeps the band in place. Shrink wrap. It is theoretically possible for resellers of genuine Rolexes to wrap their watches in plastic. It's not a common practice. Seeing the lugs wrapped in this stupid shrink wrap is a huge red flag, and often 904 will be written in red. For Rolexes manufactured before 2007, a hologram of the crown logo is found on the caseback. Versions of Rolex manufactured after 2007 should not feature the logo. Most casebacks of newer versions are plain polished steel. Most Rolex watches do not have engraved words on the caseback. The few exceptions to this rule are the Sea Dweller military watches, Comex, and other very rare editions. Older Rolex models like 69,172, 69,173, and 69,174 also have engravings on the back with stainless steel and registered design. Writing and chemical movements. Rolex craftsmanship is of high quality and often unmatched. The movement must have an engraved Rolex on it. The location of the engraving on the Rolex movement differs from one model to another. Unfortunately, you won't be able to know this unless you open the watch. Rolex has also produced a limited number of quartz watch styles, mainly from the 1960s and 1970s, with the production of the now vintage Rolex in oyster quartz. The date appears bigger. The Cyclops, which is a part of the watch crystal, magnifies the date about 2.5 times. Run a finger over the watch crystal and feel the lens. You should feel a bump on the convex lens across the date. A flat Cyclops means that the Rolex watch is a fake. Another way to test it is to hold the watch sideways and look at the date without the Cyclops. If the size of the date appears the same, then it's not a genuine Rolex watch. Rolex cases. A Rolex watch is known for its waterproof capability. Rolex Oyster perpetual watches have minimum 330 feet water resistance level, while a Rolex Submariner can be water resistant for up to 1,000 feet. A Rolex Sea Dweller can reach up to 4,000 feet. And the best of them all is the Rolex Sea Dweller Deep Sea, which can withstand water for up to 12,800 feet. This waterproof ability is thanks to the solid middle case of the watch, which has screw-down winding crowns that prevent the water from entering the watch's internal mechanism. Timed in motion. The hand movements on a true Rolex watch must move smoothly. If there is a jerk, no matter how tiny it may be, consider the watch a fake. A ticking noise whenever the hands move also mean that it is not a legitimate Rolex watch. The crystal micro-etched with crown logo. The crystal has a tiny crown logo micro-etched at the 6 o'clock position of a Rolex watch manufactured from 2002 onwards. To view the crown logo, you need to have the proper lighting as well as a magnifying glass, since it is too small to be seen by the naked eye. Skis with Martingren. The small knob on the side, which is used to set the time, is known as the crown. A genuine Rolex has a crown logo on the crown of the watch. The logo is made from one metal alone with exquisite detail. On a counterfeit Rolex watch, however, the crown logo is usually made of 2 or more pieces of metal joined together. Use a magnifying glass to examine the crown and the crown logo thoroughly. Weigh the watchy. A genuine Rolex watch is always heavier than a knockoff. Before purchasing a watch, do some quick research on Google and check for the actual weight of the Rolex model you want to purchase. Then weigh the item you are looking at. If it does not weigh the same amount as what you have researched, then it is surely a fake watch. Analyze details of a real Rolex watch. My good starting point when assessing if a Rolex is genuine is to pay attention to the watch movement. The seconds hand on a real modern Rolex ticks 8 times per second or 5-6 times per second on a vintage model, creating a sweeping vision. Many fakes use cheap quartz movements, so if it ticks only once per second, unless it's an oyster quartz model, it's surely fake. Cyclops provides a distinctive 2.5 times magnification, and the date should fill up the Cyclops window nicely. A lack of magnification is a common indicator of a counterfeit. The date numerals should be nicely centered within the white box. Fakes are often off-center, like the 2 images on the left below. The Cyclops on the right is real. Note that on vintage Rolexes, cheap aftermarket crystals are common, so bad magnification alone isn't a guarantee of inauthenticity. Also, Rolex notoriously produced a faulty batch of Cyclops in about 2015. It was so bad they had to remove all mentions of 2.5 times magnification from the website. So if you see a watch from that era with a low mag crystal, it could be legit. Also, as noted below, if you're looking at a Sea Dweller manufactured before 2017, it should not have a Cyclops. With few exceptions, such as the Sea Dweller and Milgas, Rolex watches do not have specs, logos, or branding on their casebacks. A few vintage ladies' models actually do say stainless steel on the back, and a handful of old Rolexes with certain third-party cases have a crown logo on the caseback. But as a rule, Rolex casebacks should be sterilely blank aside from personal engravings. Released 3 watches with clear casebacks in 2020. The 1908, an updated Platinum Daytona, and the Lomas Daytona. 4 Cellini Prince references made from about 2005-2015 have exhibition casebacks as well. But aside from that, Rolex has always used solid casebacks. Counterfeiters often try to get overly fancy and go overboard by putting clear casebacks on watches that shouldn't have them. Although aftermarket sapphire casebacks can be installed on Rolexes, it's certainly a red flag when assessing authenticity. For years, Rolex put stickers on their casebacks, apparently as an anti-counterfeiting measure. Naturally, counterfeiters were quick to start faking those too. Although Rolex dropped caseback stickers around 2006, counterfeiters actually kept putting stickers on much longer. So a caseback sticker that looks too new can be a red flag. Since 2008, all Rolexes have had the Rolex engraving on the rehaut. The serial number should be at 6 o'clock, so if the Rolex writing goes all the way around with no break for a serial number at the bottom, that's a sure sign of a cheap fake. Real Rolex rehouts aren't always aligned perfectly, but they should be close. The minute lines might not exactly bisect each letter, but if any minute line is so far off that it's not even touching a letter, that's a pretty conclusive sign of a fake. Rehout engravings on real Rolexes have a clean, sandblasted appearance. Low-quality etching is indicative of a counterfeit. Before the engraved rehouts, Rolex serial numbers were engraved on the case between the bottom lugs. Fakes often have poorly engraved serials, or none at all. As with the serial number, the stampings on the front of a fake Rolex may look faded, uneven, or even misspelled. In this macro shot of a ref, 116,500 Daytona, we can see crisp, glossy, slightly raised lettering. Even these modern high-end fakes have lettering with a more flat, painted-on appearance. From me as 1 sur yen. X2002 onward, Rolex started engraving the crystal with a tiny crown logo next to the 6 o'clock mark as an anti-counterfeiting measure. Counterfeiters often fake this, but they make it too visible, so counterintuitively, seeing this laser-etched coronet in photos is actually a red flag. A skilled photographer can capture a real LAC with the right lighting though, as shown below, and legit LACs are more pointillated and less foggy than fake ones. Rolex watches are made with high-quality materials, and their modern bracelets are quite heavy. Fakes often use cheap materials, leading to a much lighter watch. However, it should be noted that vintage Rolexes are far lighter than new ones, and owners of modern Rolexes sometimes wrongly assume old Rolexes are fake because of their lack of heft. Rolex uses solid 18 gold in its gold and two-tone watches. Fakes often use cheap gold plating, so any sign of gold plating rubbing off is almost always indicative of a fake. Rotating a Submariner bezel results in smooth, subtle clicks. It feels noticeably better than bezels on cheap divers. Modern GMT Master I models have spring-loaded ball bearings underneath their bezels, resulting in a smooth, satisfying rotating action. If you're not sure if the Sub or GMT in your hands is legit, give the bezel a spin and see if it feels cheap. Know the model you're looking at. Ultimately, one of the best ways to spot a fake is by knowing what a real version of that particular model looks like. If you're looking at a Submariner date, try to figure out if it's a 16,610 or 116,610, etc., and know the characteristics of each. Knowing the reference number helps you know what the watch should look like. For example, if you're looking at a Sea Dweller manufactured before 2017, it should not have a Cyclops. 126,600 was the first Sea Dweller with a Cyclops. In general, a Rolex sales listing without a proper model number is a red flag. Even within a single reference, Rolex has been known to produce several variations. For a ref, 16,610 Submariner date models, for example, solid end Lynx EIL replaced hollow end Lynx ELI around 2000. The SALs aren't really that much more solid than hollow ones. Slightly reinforced might be more accurate, as you can see below. However, collectors almost universally agree that the SILs indeed feel significantly more solid than the HILs, which have their own lightweight charm. Although the accuracy of counterfeiters is only going to get scarier and scarier, if you keep these guidelines in mind, you should be able to spot most of the fake Rolexes on the market today. Just remember to research the model you're purchasing and that there's no substitute for buying from a trusted, reputable dealer. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more exciting content.